This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Xia Yunan was shocked when he saw a figure appear in front of him. He cried out in horror, You're from the Blood God Palace? Why are you stopping me from killing this demonic being? The person in front of him was Chao Yaxing. He had seen him in the team just now. Chao Yaxing gently slapped Xia Yunan's palm and sent him flying. His eyes were filled with shock and excitement as he stared at the black demon fruit. Large amounts of saliva flowed out of his mouth, and his face was twisted. Damn it! Xia Yunan was shocked and furious. He could tell that Chao Yaxing's condition wasn't right. He raised his sword and slashed at him again. He used all his strength in this attack, hoping to succeed while his opponent was focused on the fruit. Humph, ants, die. Chao Yaxing didn't even turn his head. He waved the blood flag in the air behind him, and the sea of blood melted, trying to suck Xia Yunan in. The originally red sea of blood was now flowing with black blood, which was even more daunting. Xia Yunan was shocked. His body turned cold as he watched the demon fly out of the sea of blood and try to devour him. Suddenly, a sword light slashed over and directly shattered the devil that was whistling out. The sword chi condensed in the air and turned toward the blood flag. With a bang, it hit the iron pole and shook it back. Chao Yaxing's body trembled as he turned around and grabbed the blood flag. His black eyes narrowed as he stared at the person who had just arrived. Li Yunxiao. It was Yunxiao, who had just finished refining the Devil Sky Silk from the Divine Realm tablet. At the moment, he had mastered the complete power of a realm, so repairing profound-level artifacts was a piece of cake for him. In the Divine Realm tablet, even if the blood beast came out, he was confident that he could fight it. However, he obviously did not have the time now. After repairing the Devil Sky Silk, he came out of the Divine Realm tablet directly and saw the scene of Chao Yaxing trying to kill Xia Yunan. Yunxiao gave him a deep look and sighed. You've joined the devil. What demon? Chao Yaxing raised his eyebrows and scoffed. The beauty of my current state is not something you can understand. He stared coldly at Yunxiao, his whole body on alert as he said in a cold voice, Are you also going to stop me from taking this demonic energy fruit? Yunxiao looked at the fruit behind him. In addition to its pitch-black body and its monstrous demonic flame, it also gave off an indescribable discomfort. Just a glance at it made him feel disgusted, and he wished he could stomp it into the mud. He immediately frowned. That thing is very strange. I advise you not to touch it. Let me destroy it. Xia Yunan also quickly said, Yes. That thing made me feel extremely uncomfortable. Friend, you must kill this demonic being. Although he did not know Yunxiao, he could tell from Chao Yaxing's look that they were old acquaintances, and Chao Yaxing seemed to be very afraid of the young man. Impudent. Chao Yaxing was furious, as if he had been humiliated. He roared, You actually dare to slander the supreme demonic origin fruit. Just in time, Li Yunxiao, the grudge between you and me is over. What? Yunxiao frowned. I don't think there's any grudge between us. Chao Yaxing, perform concealment of spirit and qi, let me help you get rid of the demonic qi. What a joke. Chao Yaxing laughed without restraint. I'd be crazy to ask you to help me get rid of the demonic qi. Unfortunately, my divine sense is completely suppressed here, so you can't see my current cultivation level. The aura on his body rose violently and continued to rise. It formed circles of qi fields around him and spread in all directions. Chao Yaxing was extremely excited as he laughed. See that? Li Yunxiao, I've now reached the cultivation base of a 9 heavens martial sovereign. It's all because of the demonic qi's effect, he said excitedly. I can sense that it's only the beginning of my breakthrough to the rank of a martial sovereign. If I can obtain this demonic essence fruit, it's extremely possible for me to advance another star. Above the rank of martial supreme, 1 star is a world. Do you know how important this demonic origin fruit is to me? There was a trace of sadness on Yunxiao's face as he sighed. Even if one's cultivation base is extremely high, if one doesn't have his own soul, he's just a shell that can kill and fight. Is there any meaning to that? Impudent. Who said I don't have a soul? If I don't have a soul, who is the person you are talking to? Chao Yaxing was enraged and he shouted, I understand now. You just can't bear to see me stronger than you. No wonder you want to stop me from getting the demonic energy fruit. I've been suppressed by you since Mount Meru. When I was in the Blood God Palace, I thought I had far surpassed you. I didn't even consider you an opponent at the beginning, but you poured cold water on me again and left me behind. Now that I can finally beat you, you're afraid. Yunxiao's face returned to calmness as he said indifferently, You've already joined the devil, there's no point in saying more. Since there's no point in talking, then let's fight. Chao Yaxing suddenly burst out with a powerful force as he soared into the sky. The black blood god flag was once again unfurled, and as he descended from the sky, he said ruthlessly, This time, I'll let you understand how powerful the power I've obtained is. This will be the last time Tao Wu will fight with you. His eyes were full of killing intent. After throwing down the blood god flag, he looked up and roared. Countless black blood slaves burst out from the blood sea and began to merge with each other. He put his palms together and slowly pulled them apart in front of him. A bright light that could wash the Milky Way flashed. Although Chao Yaxing had broken through to the Great Emperor realm, the battle in the sky above Blood God Palace made him know that the Blood God flag was not enough to defeat Yunxiao. Finally, he began to show his greatest trump card. A dazzling sword was held tightly in his right hand, so bright that even his figure was barely visible. Ice sword. What a powerful force! Chao Yaxing exclaimed excitedly. As expected, only martial sovereigns could unleash the power of a 9th-tier profound armament. I can now hear the voice of the sword. It's telling me to kill you. Xia Yunan's face was pale with fear. He knew he was done for. He stood below in despair and looked at the black blood slave that was falling. The surroundings had already turned into a sea of blood. In addition to the smell of blood, there was also a large amount of demonic qi. It's just a 9th-tier profound armament, is there a need to be so excited? I also have this thing. Yunxiao's calm expression did not change at all. He gently pointed his index finger, and the sword qi that he had just sent out appeared again, hovering quietly in the air. And it's not just one. Go. He shouted, and another Northern Heaven Cold Star sword shot out. It made a few sword flowers in the air and lined up side by side. Xia Yunan's eyelids twitched violently. He was already shocked that the two men in front of him could take out 9th-tier mystic artifacts, but he did not expect Yunxiao to take out two at once. Two aren't enough, Yunxiao said softly. Give me another one. The third Northern Heaven Cold Star sword shot out. Immediately, the three swords responded to each other and formed a sword diagram formation. Rays of sword qi spread out and kept on exaggerating. It spread open the entire world of Bloody Sea, preventing the demonic qi from entering. Wah! Damn it! Chao Yaxing roared in anger. Yunxiao's behavior was a complete provocation. He pointed his finger at the blood slave, and the blood slave immediately roared and slammed its palms toward the sword diagram. Boom! A large amount of blood and demonic qi rose up. The sword momentum was slightly raised, and it trembled a few times. The blood slave did not have any thoughts or intelligence. It kept clasping its fists and slamming them down. The three swords began to tremble violently, producing clear sounds of battle. Yunxiao only had the strength of a 3-star martial venerable, so it was extremely difficult for him to control the sword diagram to resist the forceful bombardment of a peak martial venerable. Xia Yunan smiled bitterly. I didn't expect that I would still die even though I have 3 9th-tier armaments. My friend, I've dragged you down. Yunxiao ignored him and simply pointed out his finger. 2 Northern Heaven Cold Star swords flew out again and immediately formed a 5-sword diagram. Beams of cold light shone again, and the formation instantly doubled in size. Strange runes condensed in the 5 swords, and a firmament will spread out. Xia Yunan's mouth was wide open as he stared at the 5 northern heavens cold star swords in shock. 5 sword slashes heavenly dipper. Kill. Yunxiao cried out. At the same time, the 5 swords exuded a huge aura, and an ocean of sword chi suddenly spread out and enveloped the blood slave. In an instant, countless sword chi were unleashed, twisting into a blood mist and dissipating. After the 5 swords succeeded, under the control of Yunxiao's incantation seals, 3 of them shot out of the sword diagram and slashed at the blood god flag. Bang! How could the blood god's flag withstand the sword power of 3 ninth-grade profound armaments? It broke at the sound, and the sea of blood that filled the sky dispersed. Chao Yaxing's eyes narrowed, and the hatred in his eyes increased. The blood god's flag was a profound-level weapon that was linked to his life. Although the mark of his mind had been erased after he obtained the icy sword, it was still an item that had accompanied him for many years after all. His heart was in great pain when it was destroyed in an instant. The 5 northern heaven frigid star swords had already flown back and stood quietly around him. They were still shining with each other, flashing with flowing lights and vibrant colors. Step back. Yunxiao said softly, his tone emotionless. Xia Yunan was stunned for a moment. He immediately realized that he was talking about him and quickly said, "Many thanks, many thanks." After he finished speaking, he suddenly ran back. He was completely unable to participate in a battle of this level. Chao Yaxing's eyes were as cold as autumn water. He looked straight into Yunxiao's indifferent eyes and kept shouting, "Good, good, good." It was just that each word was colder than the last, and the strength used in each word was greater than the last. He raised his cold sword, Frost, and the power of his weapon accumulation suddenly spread out. It actually shook the space directly. It was as if the sun was shining down, and the power was still increasing. Feed the sword with your body. Yunxiao said with a solemn expression. Feed the sword with your body. You also know the wondrous method of feeding the sword with your body? Since he understood, he knew that he would die today. I can now display at least 1/5 of the power of this cold sword Frost. This is not just an ordinary 9th tier profound artifact, but a peak profound artifact used to suppress the great demon in Mount Meru. Chao Yaxing shouted as his sword lit up the sky and earth. He then ruthlessly stabbed down and said, "A sword like a dream, a sword like nothing." The sword momentum was like a meteorite falling from the sky. Just the power alone was enough to crack the earth. It was truly heaven-shattering. Yunxiao's expression did not change. The 5 swords stood around him, and the boundary formed between them made the place where he stood quiet, unaffected by the sword power. A beam of light emerged in his right hand and gradually turned into a 1,000-year blade, which absorbed his primordial energy endlessly like a vortex. The light on the 1,000 autumn's tyrannical saber grew brighter and brighter. As if it had sensed the power of the cold sword, it began to hum madly. For a moment, saber chi filled the air. Yunxiao's face flickered under the cold and fierce saber light as he said, "One blade of time, one blade of 1,000 autumns." The 1,000 autumn's tyrannical saber suddenly let out a long cry, and saber chi soared into the sky, completely covering the radiance of the 5 northern heavens cold star swords. It transformed into the evil appearance of a corpse puppet in the air, and swallowed the sword chi. Boom boom boom. The saber light and the sword chi collided, and a cold killing intent burst out, illuminating the dark sky as if it were daytime. The light pierced through the sky and swallowed the two. Xia Yunan, who was watching from a distance, was completely stunned. Not only did this young man take out another 9th tier profound artifact, but the power of this blade was actually comparable to a sword that had reached the level of a martial supreme. It was not at all inferior. Pfft. Under the backlash of the collision, Yunxiao's sword gleamed as a cold air invaded his veins and internal organs, causing him to cough up a mouthful of blood. The 5 northern heaven frigid star swords had no power to control them after he had struck with all his might, and they all returned to his body. The 1,000-year tyrannical saber had also dimmed and turned into an ordinary object. Yunxiao's indestructible golden body flickered unsteadily, and he was still badly wounded by the sword. Although it doesn't have the might of Emperor Qi, it truly possesses the power of the 9 heavens realm. That demonic chi is really terrifying. Yunxiao looked up at the sky in shock. Although there was only a thin line between a peak martial venerable and a martial supreme, it was so far away that it was almost impossible to reach. Chao Yaxing was able to cross this chasm by relying on the opportunity he had after becoming a demon. It was not only because of his extraordinary talent, but also because of his unusually powerful demonic chi. How could it be? Chao Yaxing's face turned completely blank as he said, "How could this be? I've already reached this level, but I still can't beat you?" Bang! His arms suddenly exploded, and a cloud of demonic chi exploded. The ice sword fell from the sky, and with a clang, it stabbed into the ground, sinking into the sword. Bang bang bang. Chao Yaxing's body began to explode in succession as the blade aura of the Thousand Autumn's tyrannical saber entered his body. His body and meridians were unable to withstand it, and they burst out one by one, blasting open all of his major acupuncture points. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Chao Yaxing's face was filled with despair as he continued to growl. His consciousness was becoming more and more blurry. Finally, his entire physical body was destroyed, and he closed his eyes unwillingly. Yunxiao's expression was stern, and a faint sigh flickered in his eyes. Chao Yaxing was definitely one of the best among the younger generation. If he had not met him, his future would have been limitless. Moreover, the two of them were evenly matched in strength. It was just that his divine body was able to withstand the sword chi wreaking havoc in his body, while the other party didn't have the inextinguishable golden body, so he could only die. With a casual wave of his hand, the cold sword of frost was absorbed into his body. This was the same as the Dynasty Bell, a supreme profound artifact used to suppress Dijia. Although they were both 9th grade, its power was far above that of the Northern Heaven Cold Star Sword. Amazing, so amazing. Xia Yunan came back to his senses and ran over in shock. He praised, "Friend, you really can't judge a book by its cover. You've even killed a martial supreme realm demon." Yunxiao? Yunxiao gave him a look and asked, "Have Su Wan and the others gone to seal the fiends?" Xia Yunan responded and told him everything he knew. Yunxiao frowned and said worriedly, "For Chao Yaxing to have such an accident, I'm afraid that something must have happened to Su Yu and the others." Xia Yunan laughed. "Don't worry. With Lord Su and the masters from UNC around, no demon can do anything. There are more than 10 martial sovereigns alone. This force is considered first class on the mainland." Naive. Yunxiao snorted. If nothing had happened, how could Chao Yaxing, who was at the peak of the martial honor realm, have any problems? Furthermore, how could he still run back after being possessed? Suddenly, his expression changed as he looked up into the sky. He saw that Chao Yaxing's body, which had already exploded, did not fall down. Instead, it turned into a mass of demonic chi and bloody meat paste, which kept rolling in the air and gradually condensed into the shape of a demon. What the hell is this? Xia Yunan was shocked, and a chill ran down his spine. He quickly hid behind Yunxiao. Yunxiao's face was livid as he said angrily, "What an overbearing demonic aura. Can't you give the dead any dignity? Even after death, we will be used and trampled on." The demon in the sky gradually took shape. Its ferocious face still retained some of Chao Yaxing's appearance, but its aura was still above the demonized Chao Yaxing. It suddenly laughed and rushed down. Yunxiao was on full alert. The attack just now had drained all his strength. He was about to ask his disciple to fight when the fiend suddenly stopped in the air, its eyes filled with horror as it stared at the fiend energy fruit. Eh? The demon suddenly let out a blood-curdling screech as its body trembled. It seemed to be extremely afraid of the fruit as it tried to escape to the horizon. All of a sudden, the fruit that had been motionless suddenly changed. The vines around it flew up in an instant, wrapping around the demon like countless tentacles and dragging it down. The leaves around the fruit suddenly opened up and formed a big mouth, swallowing the demon directly. The leaves, which had formed the shape of a mouth, kept chewing, and the sound of bones being chewed made Yunxiao and Xia Yunan shiver. Soon, the devil was devoured and digested by the devil origin fruit. The leaves opened up again, and all the branches and tendrils were retracted. The devil origin fruit was a bit stronger than before, and the devil chi was even thicker. Damn it! Yunxiao cursed. It's so fucking strange. He opened the heaven's eye on his glabella and released the divine phoenix flame, which burned toward the flame. Ordinary attacks were probably no longer enough to deal with this fruit. All living things had an instinctive fear of fire. The first thing he thought of was to try burning it with fire, let alone the phoenix divine fire. The demonic energy fruit reacted as expected. It spurted out a large amount of demonic chi to protect the fruit. The demonic chi blocked the outside and the true phoenix fire couldn't burn it in. Demonic energy surged inside the raging fire, but the demonic energy fruit was intact. Xia Yunan was completely stunned. The strange things that happened today were more than what he had seen in his life. What? Yunxiao was taken aback for a moment before he flew into a rage and shouted, I don't believe that I can't even handle a single fruit. A ray of light shot out of his heavenly eyes, and the divine realm tablet flew out and landed above the demonic energy fruit. The power of the earth and the territory was activated, and the infinite gravity gathered on his body and pressed down fiercely. The entire space was distorted by the gravity. Even Xia Yunan felt great pressure. The space twisted toward the demonic energy fruit, trying to crush it into powder. This time, the demonic energy fruit was really afraid. Countless roots emerged from the ground and directly separated from the soil bag, wanting to fly away. Xia Yunan's eyes almost popped out. First, he was shocked that this fruit could actually fly, and second, a sense of powerlessness welled up in his heart. The young man casually threw out another 9th-tier profound artifact. You want to escape? In your dreams. Yunxiao performed the Great Realm Divine Technique, opening the 4 major territories. The power of the world suddenly emerged on the Divine Realm tablet, firmly suppressing the fruit. Then, the power of the world circulated and slowly absorbed the fruit into the tablet. The fruit kept struggling, and countless vines danced in the air, like demons and ghosts baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, but it was to no avail. In the end, it was completely absorbed by the Divine Realm tablet. With a point of Yunxiao's finger, the divine monument flew into his forehead, and everything finally calmed down. However, the ground was full of potholes, all caused by the roots of the fruit. Xia Yunan licked his dry lips and said with difficulty, My friend, are you the son of some great alchemist in the Sea of Soul formation? Yunxiao gave him a glance, then sat down cross-legged on the spot and said, I'm going to meditate for a while to recover my energy. Please protect me. Xia Yunan nodded repeatedly, then sat cross-legged in the air above Yunxiao to protect him. His essence force had been completely exhausted during the battle with Chao Yaxing, and repairing the Devil Sky Silk had consumed a lot of his soul force. He had also used the Divine Fire and the Divine Realm Tablet, so his soul force had also been completely exhausted. Fortunately, his cultivation technique was heaven-defying, and he circulated the Great Expansion Divine Technique and the Synchronized Fate Technique one after another, directly absorbing a large amount of the Southern Fire Golden Crystal source. The dried-up meridians were like a raging river, pouring into his dantian. With the continuous improvement of his strength, the amount of yuan qi he absorbed with each circulation of the cultivation method had also increased greatly. Moreover, the tyrant body tempering technique had always been at the initial stage of the imperishable golden body. Without the follow-up cultivation method, it was difficult for him to advance further. This had also produced a corresponding benefit, and that was that the yuan qi required for advancement had gradually begun to return to normal. An extremely powerful tremor came from the sky and the ground, reaching 10,000 miles. A huge essence energy fluctuation spread out, and the sky changed color. This is the direction of the swan and I. Xia Yunan was shocked. He stood up and looked into the distance in horror. It was the direction that Suyu and the others had gone to. Is Lord Su really in big trouble? After the first rumble, more and more noises came, and Yunxiao could no longer remain calm. He frowned and slowly opened his eyes. Friend, Lord Su and the others are really in trouble. Xia Yunan quickly landed from the sky and said, Let's hurry up and rescue them. Yunxiao gave him an indifferent look and said, "Let me go. With your weak strength, you'll only cause more trouble." Xia Yunan Ingluo. He knew that Yunxiao was not lying, so he said awkwardly, "Ahem, I'll leave this Ingluo to you, friend." "Humph," Yunxiao said softly, then turned into a beam of light and flew in the direction of the energy fluctuation.